Welcome and welcome back, everybody. The OK Grognard Show. Today is Wednesday, November 27th, 2024, 10 a.m. Central in beautiful Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. Today we're going to discuss just a little bit Gardner F. Fox in his fantasy fiction. There is a thing in the first edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons Dungeon Master's Guide called Appendix N. Many people who listen to this or watch this show will be familiar with it. And it includes inspirational reading material that Gary had proposed for people who play the game. Hey, Vince in the chat, thanks for popping in there, buddy. And Gardner Fox is right there on the list, right toward the middle. Gary had suggested two different series. His Kothar series and his, I believe it's pronounced Keurig. Could be Kyrick, but I think it's Keurig series. Et al., it says, which is to say all of each series, but probably all Gardner Fox stuff. Although not all of it's fantasy fiction, and we'll get into that in just a little bit as well. What do we know about our buddy there? Ooh, there we go. There's a picture of... A lot of this isn't going to show up well on regular camera because of the green screen stuff, but yeah, I picked up some of these recently. I've read a number of things from Appendix N back in the day, and then there's other things I just never made time to read or check out, even though they're certainly in the wheelhouse. Some of the Kothar books and also some of the Keurig books as well. I think this being the first one, right? The green screen really screws that up. In any event, interesting enough that these are, these are pulpy. These are easily digestible, one might say. They are, without a doubt, fine examples of fantasy, swords and sorcery kind of fiction. A lot of the stuff that's on the Appendix N list, I think I discussed this in a different show, tend to go with swords and science, or science and swords. I forget the term, but they're like space stuff. Like John Carter of Mars and stuff. Sure, he's a spaceman and he's on Mars, and but a lot of the other tropes seem like fantasy fiction. They're swinging swords around. Sure, some of them have lasers or other weapons that are more technologically advanced, but the sword still gets used by a lot of people because close quarters, and don't want to use up all the energy in your energy weapon. You don't want to use all your ammunition, and if you're close enough to swing a sword and that does the trick, then I can understand why that would be. The naysayers among us might say, I don't know why they'd use a sword. Well, there are reasons. You just got to decide you want to look for them and make them prominent enough. Ammunition's hard to come by. Of course, use a sword when you can and save your ammunition for when you can't, right? But these are kind of interesting enough. I should pop this over to, there is a bibliography of just those two series that I lifted off of Wikipedia. The fine folks there who I donate to from time to time. So I don't feel so bad about it. Definitely have stuff collected over there. Oh, I wonder if I could just do... Yeah. Let's have a look at the Wikipedia page itself. There's a fine little Gil Kane drawing, right? And that's from 1974, the year that Dungeons and Dragons was first published. How about that? What are the odds? Gardner Francis Cooper Fox. I believe I read later on in this, but I won't read everything here. He went by Gardner F. Fox on some of his stuff because I guess he wanted the Francis in there, which was actually his confirmation name, which I believe means he was raised Catholic, as I was. If you ever want to mess with a church official, tell them when your name is Mark that you want to have the confirmation name Mark. It's one of the saints. So if you're Mark Alexander Clover, people will have to say it, at least during that ceremony. They might not ever say it afterwards, but you get them to say it then, and that's fun. 1974, that portrait. But he lived from 1911 through 1986. Never saw the publication of second edition D&D. Not that he necessarily was a D&D guy, but look at this. I mean, 4,000 comics stories, or scripts as they're sometimes called. Well, he did the stories and the scripts themselves. He did a lot of those too, including 1,500 for DC Comics. He was also a science fiction author and wrote many novels and short stories. He was very prolific. Look at all the pseudonyms over here on the right that he wrote under for so many different things. One of the first to team up individuals in a group for the Justice Society of America, as it was called at first before it became the Justice League of America. He introduced the concept of the multiverse to DC Comics in 1961. Flash of Two Worlds, you might remember that cover there. Early life and career, I'm going to skim past some of this. It does say at one point one of his hobbies was to collect and paint miniature figures. Novels, wrote many, 40s and 50s. There was a lot of that going on. And then, of course, what do we got here? 6-part loosely based. Okay, Golden Age of Comics. He was in on that because he's started very, very early. Sandman, Flash, Hawkman, all of the things that were in the upper part. But if we scroll down, we get down to the section where he, hobbies and achievements. What's it say here? Author as a lawyer, member of a legal fraternity, sports fan. He enjoyed making and collecting miniature soldiers, focusing on ancient and medieval figures. Fascinating. Awards, got quite a few. Look at all those comic titles, all those issue numbers that he was in. Look at those interesting Marvel comics as well. Avon, Crom the Barbarian. There's a bit of a takeoff on Conan, Alan Morgan. These two I skipped, but the Kothar and the Kirik series are right there. More novels, nonfiction, historic fiction. A ton of those are short stories. Essays as well. In any event, that's all good stuff to know about him, and it's also interesting to note that he was so prolific beyond the material that was being touted in Appendix N as inspirational for those running Dungeons and Dragons games. Well, that's a sum up of what's up with that guy, and I think it's time to stop it there. So we'll say, hey, thanks everybody. I appreciate you popping in today, and this has been a little sum up on Gardner F. Fox and his fantasy fiction as touted in the Appendix N of the first edition Advanced Dungeons & Dragons Dungeon Master's Guide. This has been the OK Grognard Show. And don't forget, show streams live on Twitch each Wednesday at 10 a.m. Central, and it's archived on YouTube. Like, subscribe, follow, thumbs up, comment, all of that good stuff. Be much appreciated. Thanks to our Patreon supporters, Tom Tullis of Fat Dragon Games, Color Slicing, Castle Entertainment, Heath Varden of the Antipodean and D20, Dave O'Brien, Heidi and Eric Gygax Garland of Gaxland, Vince Ragusa, aka the Vince himself, and in the chat today. Thank you so much. Unauthorized User. And as always, Shane Bradley, DM Extraordinaire. This has been the OK Gardner Show from beautiful Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. Bye-bye.